All right, I'm going to give it a couple of minutes and try to give those that are going to come online a chance to come online so that we can have a little bit of a discussion. Just a little bit of a discussion. This is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I do not want to leave you without an opportunity to find a way to make Mental Health Awareness Month a better experience for you in this month, and then uh, using all of the tools that we're going to give you for the months to come. All right, greetings to those that are coming online. We're going to talk about this Mental Health Awareness Month. And then again, if you were on the last segment, you know that I have something for those that are going to be participating in this segment. So, first of all, I'm going to ask you if you'll do me one kind favor and if you will share this. And if, in addition to sharing it, if you will like. And if you're not subscribed, kindly subscribe to the YouTube page, but be sure to share and to like. And I am going to go into, because this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and you know, we have a lot of anxiety in the world, we have a lot of pain in the world right now, and a lot of people are experiencing more than I would say they ever imagined they would have to deal with in life. So we want to address that here on Reset Forever. So share, and while we're waiting for them to come on, I am going to use a biblical character that struggled with some things that would be called an event of mental had a mental pact, an impact on his mental health. And so that's going to be Jeremiah, but we'll also talk about the true and living Savior who was a man of sorrow and acquainted with grief. But I am not going to keep you long. So if you will share, and those that are coming in, and if you're not in as of yet, I am going to go ahead and get ready to do this because you'll be able to see and view this online later on. All right, so I am looking at, first of all, the book of Jeremiah, and I'm going to look at the book of Lamentations. I love to teach out of the books of Lamentations, um, Proverbs, Psalms, Job, all the books of Songs of Solomon, all of those books of poetry, because the books of poetry are the human experiences of suffering. Those that have gone through mental distress, mental anguish, and we get the opportunity to look at it like a fly on the wall. So we're the ones that have that great privilege of being able to see exactly how people were able to cope with their afflictions and how God helped them. So I am trying to bring up my page. So if you give me a second and let me just get anyone there that is here. Okay. And make sure we don't have volume screaming at me. All right. And then I am going to, and if you will, please like and share. And this is something that was really on my heart before I did the last lesson. So okay, all right. I see others are coming. Please share, please like. If you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do subscribe. And if you're not subscribed to Reset Forever, my Facebook page, I have one more subscriber I need to hit the 1,000 mark, which means a lot to me. So if you also like that page, Reset Forever, on Facebook, and then subscribe. Listen, let's go into this. This lesson was something that amazed me. Now, this month has been dubbed, and I do have something for everyone that stays on the line. And let me put up in addition to my banner, let me put up my email address because I want you to email me and let me, and believe me, I am not going to bombard you with emails. I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the time to do that. And then I don't like my email box being jammed up. So I wouldn't do it to you. So let's get into, let's take this one out of the way. Yep, we'll get rid of that one. Okay, and then we've got this one. Okay, let's go ahead and scroll that ticker. Okay, show. Okay, so this one, this lesson is going to serve as a way to help you, and also to help you help others in this phenomenon that we have of mental. They call it mental health. Some even call it mental illness, and I'm going to prove to you that all distress is not mental illness. Sometimes things happen to us in our life that is just hard and that hurts very deeply, and we have a time contending with it. So I want to show you also how to contend with these things. So if you will, just bear with me. I am going to talk from the book of Lamentation, because the name or the title Lamentation all by itself suggests, and those of you that are on a Reset Forever page, please share and please like. um, the book of Lamentation is a book of deep seated heartache and grief. This writer is going through the throes of mental anguish for good reasons. And I'm going to tell you the story. A lot of people may know this, a little bit about this character in the Bible, but they don't know the story. It's good to know the backstory. And that is another factor. Remember, before we can judge someone about what they are going through, we need to try to seek for understanding why they're feeling the way that they're feeling. And then we need to look inwardly to see if there is any way that we can assist them. And when it's us, I have to come sometimes, I have to go and get my own book, and I have to actually read some of the writing in there, and then I have to manage my grief. So, and then find a way. Okay, so in the book of Lamentations, you're going to find a lot of sorrow. If you've ever heard anybody talk about a lot that they have been through, it is the book of Lamentation. David talks a lot about his troubles, his musings, his anger, his injustices, and how he cried. He talks about how he wept all night long and cried until he just watered his pillow down with tears. These are experiences of grief and heaviness and bouts and struggles with mental stability. And that doesn't mean that you don't have competence. It means that what is challenging you right now is trying to throw you off base and help you or cause you to lose your balance. But I'm going to show you how to get through that. It helps me almost every single day of my life. So it's all practical. It's coming out of the Bible. It's all non-pharmacological, means there are no drugs involved. So whatever you're taking from your doctor, then I have nothing, to say against that. But I will say this, that every time pain comes to you, you don't want to have to reach for a pill. You don't want to always have to depend upon chemicals of any form. Some things you want to do in between times, because your dosages may have hours in between time. If you learn these things I'm going to give you today in between time, and you use them more and more, you'll find yourself less dependent on those substances, because sometimes they can be addicting, or sometimes people get tired of having to deal with that. So the first thing first, my book is called Breathe, and you're not going to see that good. I did not design that cover in a way, but that it was going to be very readable. But it's called Breathe, Breathe, by Dr. Valerie Simpson. And this book tells things that I said I'm never going to tell, but it came to me very clearly that if I don't give the whole story, then it's not going to make sense. I want you to know that some of the mechanisms I used to write this book helped me to get grief out of my heart and out of my spirit that I had been carrying for 40 years. I did not even know it was there. There was just, it was just embedded in me. And so it helped me to get rid of it and free from it. So let's talk. So now, again, I'm going to go back to the book of Lamentation. Lamentation was written by the prophet Jeremiah. Jeremiah had been known as the weeping prophet, the weeping prophet, because he was passionate. But what was he passionate about? Why was he always crying? Why was he also heavy? Let me tell you his backstory. Again, seek to know the backstory. With Jeremiah, he was in Jerusalem at the time of the Babylonian captivity. Now, they didn't take everybody at one time. The Babylonians came in and they took the best of the best, the sharpest and the smartest and the healthiest and the most skillful individuals from among their society, and they carried them away captives so they could build up Babylon. And they came back again for a second wave, and they came back again eventually for a third wave. Now, listen, I have gone through the book of Lamentations. It is a book to read. It is a book of human suffering. What Jeremiah's complaint was that he had seen so much sorrow. Well, we all have, but let's hear about what he saw. Number one, Jeremiah was young in those times when they came to carry away the captives. But he was a man of God. He was a man of prayer. He was a visionary. And that wasn't because he was special. That was just because he stayed before the Lord in prayer. And he stayed before the Lord in fellowship. And he sought to please God. And that gave him great favor. So when the Babylonians came, and they were getting ready to take the second wave of captives down to Babylon, Jeremiah was in that number. And they had shackled them all up with chains and were about to march them over to Babylon. And it just so happened that Jeremiah had so much favor that they told him, we're going to give you the option of either staying here in Babylon, or you can go with us and be with your countrymen and your brethren. You can be with them, but we're going to give you the choice. Well, I think I would have taken the choice that Jeremiah did, because Jeremiah chose to stay behind. When they left him, there was a governor by the name of Jedediah, and he was the governor. And as soon as they took the captives away to Babylon, Ishmael went in and murdered the governor, Jedaliah. And they knew, these men, Jeremiah and about four other men, they knew. Now they've murdered the governor. They're going to hear about this in Babylon, and they're going to come back. And this time we're going to end up shackled and taken away. So before they get back, we have to get out of here because they're surely going to come. And that's what they did. The five of them went down to Egypt. And when they got down to Egypt, they hid there until they felt that all of the troubles had passed away and that it was safe to go back to Jerusalem. And so they did sometime later. When they went back, what was left of Jerusalem, that there was some kind of a semblance of civility, that there was a civilization there. But when they got back this time, not only did they take away almost every living soul out of Jerusalem, but they took away the beauty of the city. So they burned it down. It was left in ruins. It was quiet. It was hushed. It was a place of devastation and a place that just represented pure ruins. And so, because Jeremiah loved that city, that God had promised them a place of dwelling, of habitation, and it was also the place, he says, the sepulchres of my fathers, my ancestors are buried here. This is the place that we have called our own, and God had promised us. And I've loved this place. I've loved the hustle and bustle of this place, and now it's taken away. So, because of that, Jeremiah was broken down. Now, you see how a person can be broken down by circumstance. This is what the depression, the anxieties, the frustrations, the bouts with depression are all about. Situational. They can be situational. And for this, it was situational. Now, I'm going to quote Bishop Daryl Farrer, because some people are going to think, oh no, well, we can tell you all the terms and we can diagnose that for you. And you can. You studied it, and you're probably extremely right on everything. But this one thing I will quote Bishop Daryl Farrer on. He said, you may have all those theories and all the teaching and all the training, and you do good work, and I recommend you. He said, but one thing that it cannot do is top God. So God has his methodologies as well. So that's why I want to give you those things in addition to what you already have. And then you can decide how you're going to use all of this. Now, remember that by this being Mental Health Awareness Month, the National Alliance of Mental Illness has deemed or given a theme to this year of more than enough. 2023, the theme for Mental Health Awareness Month is more than enough. And what they're saying is that if you got up this morning, it's more than enough. If you have health in your body, it's more than enough. So they're taking your mindset to the place that instead of focusing on the things that have gone wrong and the things that you don't have, just remember that the things that you have are more than enough to be thankful for and to get through the day. So here in the book of Lamentations, again on this backstory, is it more than enough for Jeremiah? Listen, he went away to Egypt with the other four. So the five of them finally came back, and when they got back, they found the city of Jerusalem in ruins, in ashes. They found the temple had been burnt down, torn down, knocked down. Their buildings and their homes were gone. Their land, their food, and their marketplaces were all destroyed. All of it was rubble, and it was just more than Jeremiah could stand. So, with his sorrow, he does something, and that is to write the book of the Lamentation, or Lamentations of Jeremiah. Now, I often tell people that I work with that the pen can be mightier than the pill. So I don't ever want to tell them, don't use what you've been given, because there may be a chemical imbalance. But get the chemicals balanced and then get delivered. Again, Daryl Fair. Get the chemicals balanced out. We do it all the time in hospice. We help people to get their chemistry balanced out, and the people, many of them, are able to come off of hospice services because everything has been balanced. So I want you to be delivered. So here's what he says. And the first thing I tell people to do, one of the things I tell them to do, not first, but is journaling. Um, I'm going to give you a plan of action. And I'll tell you, this is what I recommend in my book. I got a lot going on. I recommend in my book that you make a plan of action to deal with and to manage your grief. And in your there are three things in your plan of action. Number one, assess the problem. Look at the problem and what you're really dealing with. What is now on your heart and your mind? What is causing your heaviness and frustration? Why are you angry? Why are you so broken? Why are you separating yourself from people? Assess the situation. This is what Jeremiah does. And then he grieves. That's number two. And then the third thing is to find a way to manage the grief. So number one, he's going to assess it. In the book of Lamentations, in chapter number 1, these are the first words that Jeremiah says as he finds the city of Jerusalem, the home of the sepulchres of his fathers, in rubble, ruins, and ashes. Chapter 1, verse 1, it says, "How does the city lie solitary that was full of people, and how is she become a widow?" Someone that has been left and abandoned. She that was great among the nations, a princess among the provinces, how is she become a tributary? So he first begins to look at the situation and what is going on. And a lot of times we say, I don't even want to think about it. I can't think about it because if I think about it, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be hurt. But this is part of your therapy. And he does this by writing it down. That's why I suggest get a pad and paper and begin to journal. Write down the things that you are feeling, because as you're writing it, it becomes a part of you and you're letting it out. You may not have someone there that you can just talk to. And sometimes it's better to be alone and just write out those things that are bringing you pain. Now, remember, I told you as I wrote my book, I had to write things in there that I did not want to write. But I knew, and it was very, very strongly impressed upon my heart, if I didn't write the details, that no one would really understand the magnitude of what I had went through, and they wouldn't be able to connect the dots. Now, when I started writing those things, it was kind of like journaling, only I was writing a book. I started crying because the reality of the moment was still very, very deeply embedded in my heart. The sorrow that was involved with what occurred was very, very, very much there in my heart and in my subconscious. I did not know how deeply embedded it was. So as I began to write, I began to cry. And then as I cried, I continued to write. I cried harder until finally I had to just turn the computer off and go to bed and just let my mind rest. Now, notice that is another mechanism. I journaled, and then when it became too much, I knew I had had enough for that night. So what did I do? I gave my mind a reprieve. I gave my mind a rest. And I slept it off that night. And sometimes you just need to draw back and you just need to relax and you need to rest. And then the next morning, I was ready to engage because I had re energized my body and I had re energized my mind and I had reconciled that these things had indeed occurred and that they were in the past and that I had survived. So that was part number two, was that you must grieve. And that night I grieved. I grieved something that had happened 40 years prior that I did not know still was getting a lot of my attention, taking up some of my bandwidth, if you will, uh, in there. All right, so then listen to how he goes in a little bit further. Now he's taken that off. The city is just torn up. This is awful. He goes in a little bit further because he's got a little bit of relief. In verse number 12 in chapter number 1, it says, "Is it nothing at all that you pass by it? Behold, and see if there be any sorrow like unto my sorrow." He wants to know, do you see what's going on? Do you understand what I'm going through? Is it not apparent to you that this is a terrible thing? I remember the night my father died, and people were going on about their business. They were going out to dinner, and they were going over, visiting family and getting up and going to work and doing all the normal things. And I'm thinking, doesn't anybody know my world has just changed forever? It feels like, where is everybody? Why aren't they here attending to me? Why doesn't anybody know that I am in distress at the loss of my father? And this is what he's saying here. Is it nothing that you're just passing by? So I had to grapple with my loss a little bit, but I dealt with it. And as I dealt with it, I unloaded it, and I was able to again reconcile it with reality that this has really happened. This is where I'm at. And, no, nobody knows where I'm at. And it's a hard place to be in, but I'm here. And somehow I was able to get through those difficult times. The third thing that I want to tell you that you need to do is to find a way to make the situation better, or find a way to manage your grief. Here is where Jeremiah comes into chapter number 3 and verse number 1. And feel free to put your comments in. I don't see any comments on Reset Forever on my Facebook. And I'm looking now on, let me see. There we are. Okay. And I am looking, okay. And I don't have any, okay, other than shared. Someone will see this later on. Now, in chapter number 3, and let me make sure that nobody's put anything into Reset. Comments? Nope. Okay, very good. So I'm not missing any comments or interactions, because you can help me do this lesson. You know your situations more than anyone else. So in verse number 3, in chapter number 3, verse number 1, Jeremiah finds the ability to manage his grief. First, he says in verse number 1, I am the man that is seeing affliction by the rod of his wrath. And he's again saying, listen, I have tasted of the wrath of God. I'm the one, oh my God, I have really been under the heaviness of God's judgment. And so he again is addressing it. He is dealing with it. He is actually bringing it to light and making it so that it is very real. People may not see what I am going through, but this is my reality right now. All right, so the third thing was to find a way to deal with the grief. And I'm going through this, but I've got something for you. In chapter number 3, and I think this is where we all land at when we look at the book of Lamentations, the third thing. And again, I write it in my book, Breathe. The third thing that you should do in your plan of action is to find a way to manage the grief. Here's where Jeremiah is. He says, I am the man that has seen affliction at the rod of his hand. God is dealing with me. All right. And then he goes a little bit further. I'm going to jump down to, as a matter of fact, in my book, I put it in the New Living Translation. So this is going to be in chapter number, this is going to be in chapter number 2, triage. And it says here, I thought of my sufferings and homelessness. Now, remember, they came back and Jerusalem had been burned down and everybody was taken into captivity. But understand this, as you read your Bible about this Babylonian captivity, some people were left there in Jerusalem. There were just a few of them, not very many. They were milling around and they were homeless because everything was in ruins. All of those buildings were just piles of rubble now. And the food and the comforts of home and life, they didn't have all that. So they really had to scrounge to survive. This is where Jeremiah is. So not only has he been through something, but he's in a situation that is difficult for survival. And so in chapter number 3 and verse number 19 through verse 20, those are the verses that we usually read. It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed. It is because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. But let's read it in the New Living Translation, the way that we talk, because this is how he began to figure out how he was going to manage his spiritual pain. He says, I thought of my suffering and homelessness, and it's bitter beyond words, he says, in Lamentations 3:19. And then in verse number 20, he says, I'll never forget this awful time. So these things serve as a reminder to me of the places I've been. I've heard someone say, when you get now into those places, embrace them, because there's a lesson in everything you go through. He says, I will never forget this awful time as I grieve over my loss. That's Lamentation 3:20. Remember these things as you grieve over your loss. Why? Because better days are coming, and you're going to look back and you're going to see that you may not have ever considered yourself someone strong enough to go through this, but you went through it and you're able to look back. And I'll tell you that couples with your journaling, because as you journal and write out what you're doing, as he's writing, it's like journaling or writing it out or having a diary. And as you look at it, you'll see that in the very beginning, you may have been so broken you couldn't stop crying. If you've ever been in a place where the tears just wouldn't stop flowing and it seemed like the pain just was absolutely too much to live with, and that's why people get depressed, and they need something to dull the pain, and that's only temporary, and then they also, some feel like they just can't continue in this world with these pains. But I want you to remember something here, that it only lasts for a period of time, and the theme again is more than enough. It may be more than enough what you're going through, but you have more than enough when it comes to competence, capability, and reason to continue to get through this period so that you can get back to the rejoicing and back to the times of normalcy in life. It is more than enough. So here he says in verse number 20, he says 21, and he is now finding a way to manage his grief. And he says, yet I still dare to hope when I remember this. That's Lamentations 3:21. I dare to hope when I remember this. We often hear, if he did it once, he can do it again. And that's where the scripture comes in that says, it is of the Lord's mercy that we are not consumed. It could have been and would have been, maybe even should have been much worse than this. But it is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed. And his passions have not failed. They are new every morning, and great is thy faithfulness. Now I'm going to tell you the end of Lamentation, because it is a beautiful rendering of what happened and how Jeremiah got through those times. So they got worse. Chapter number 4, we can find out that they got worse, but there were praises unto God in chapter 4. Now I'm going to go to Lamentations and just give you the superscriptions. So for chapter 4, it says, Zion bewails her pitiful estate, and she confesses her sins. Anything that will bring you before the presence of God has good purpose, because whenever you come unto God, he said, I will in no wise cast you out. So when you are coming to God, and it may seem like, this, I don't know why you allowed this to happen. He even talks about how God allowed the gates to just sink down, and how the beauty of them, the temple was just, the gold was just peeled off, and that they just, they just desecrated the temple and just ruined their beautiful homeland, their beautiful city. But as you write, you'll start to unload those pains. But in addition to that, you'll be able to go back. So in 2 weeks, Let's say you go back to the first day that you journaled. You'll see how deep your pain was there and how hard and unthinkable that you would make it even through another night. And you'll look at it and say, I made it through several nights. It still hurts, but I've learned how to live with this, and I'm also learning how to manage it and how to comfort myself in it. I'm going to give you a few other things that are going to help you, and then I have something for you. Now, by chapter number 4, the pitiful complaint of the prayer of Zion. Now, I want you to know that they didn't have marketplaces to go to. They didn't have fields to go to pick their groceries out of. They had to scrounge for everything they had. They were homeless, those that were still milling around the city. And so there was there was a huge change in their lifestyle. They were in culture shock. What they once took for granted was now gone forever. But just think about the captives that were down in Babylon and that were being abused. So it was a very, very dreadful time in Israel's history. But he said it's of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed. Now, here's what I want to give you. There is a lot of information, and I am going to give to you. I want you to have this because it's going to help you to deal with your grief. Now, if it doesn't look like I'm looking at you, it's okay because I have a PowerPoint in front of me. And I want to tell you that you have chemicals in your body, and the chemicals in your body are going to help you to deal with your grief. There is a chemical in your body called dopamine. Dopamine is a very powerful medication that God has just put in your body. Your brain automatically sends out dopamine to give you comfort and relief and even lightheartedness, sometimes even joy. And so when you're intense, stir up the dopamine in your brain and that it may be released. The brain will tell your organs to send out dopamine. You may ask, how do I do that? Well, let me tell you. There are 4 ways to get dopamine stimulated in your bloodstream. Number 1, get good sleep at night and let your body re energize. Get good rest, re energize. That's going to be one thing. Remember, I had to take a nap after I had wept so hard about the things that I was forced to remember so I could write it for my book. All right, so get good sleep. The second thing is complete tasks. So if there are little things that need to be done, I just had to unpack a suitcase from travel that I had. And I didn't want to do it because I'd put things here and there. I had washed everything, but I would have to put things all around and I would have to reorganize some things. Okay, so I did it and I feel better. That took some of the anguish and the heaviness off of me. I feel better because that task is done. Another thing is exercise for whatever purpose, but it stirs up endorphins. So if you like a good game of basketball, if you like to do a few squats or walking up and down the stairs or a few exercises, you may find something on YouTube where you can just work out for 5 minutes. That's going to make you feel better because the chemical endorphin or dopamine will be released from your brain and go into your body and work better than medicine. And the fourth thing is to eat protein rich foods. They will also help you with the dopamine. And then the next thing I want you to do is to remember serotonin. Serotonin is the drug that helps you to sleep. A couple of things that are going to be one thing that will help you with the serotonin is the control of light. So the darker spaces, somewhere that is more serene and calm and peaceful. But I want to tell you what to eat to get serotonin into your body. If you can eat more fruits and vegetables, your body will store up the serotonin so that when you need it. There are foods that are rich in tryptophan. One of those you may remember, people talk about turkey at Thanksgiving, they say that that tryptophan in that turkey will help you to sleep. So serotonin is in the turkey, tryptophan. So here's some of the foods that you can eat. And then go over this video later on. Somebody else may charge you for all this, but I want you to be healthy and I want you to be whole. So sweet potatoes, they are good for your for your serotonin. Potatoes with skin on it, that's good for to get that tryptophan or that serotonin. Carrots are good in serotonin. Serotonin calms your spirit. It calms your mood, and it kind of like puts you in that state of comfort. You're not edgy, you're not irritable. Get serotonin in you. Avocados, bananas, prunes, wheat has its share. That's another plant. You can also do something with oats in it. I love oatmeal. Pistachios are good in serotonin. Lentils, chickpeas, I like those in my salads. Also, of course, a lot of Mediterranean food is made with chickpeas. They make all of those dips and everything with chickpeas and sunflower seeds. Another thing in the meat family, you can get your chicken and fish. Those will help you. All right, I've got a lot of information here, but I am going to rush. Okay, I am going to say another mood stabilizer that you can have is that serotonin. All right, and then finally, we have the stimulation of serotonin also comes with sunlight. So if you're sitting always with the windows closed, understand the weather may determine that. But open the blinds and the shades and let the sunlight in, good sunlight, natural sunlight, that natural light, it stimulates serotonin. That's why it's good to go outside and walk in nature. If you ever wanted to have something chocolate will also give you the serotonin. That will take off the edge, the frustration, all of those things. I'm getting a call here that I have to delay. But it takes those things off. So serotonin, and then there's another one. This is an easy one. It's called oxytocin, and it is stimulated. Oxytocin is stimulated very easily. You can stimulate oxytocin with bonding with someone, spending time, being close, getting to know them, reconnecting, mending fences, hugs, handshakes. Something very simple is in there, and she's calling back. Um, Handshakes, also kindness, acts of kindness. Do something nice for someone else, and your body will release oxytocin, which will also calm your mood. Petting an animal. We have, that kind of therapy when we have certain camps and when we have retreats, we'll have one of those therapy animals, dogs that are so loving, and you can just pet them, and they're so soft, and they're so sweet, and they take everything so kind. That is good for the oxytocin as well. Your endorphin factors. This is an indigenous morphine. If you want morphine, stir up your endorphins. How do you do that? That is better than taking morphine. It relieves pain and it relieves distress. It calms and it's healthy. It is natural. It is in your body. If you're following me, you know that your body is almost a pharmacy. Well, facts about endorphins is that, again, endorphins are indigenous, which means indwelling morphine. It has an opioid effect that can occur naturally in the body because it bonds with the same receptors as opioids, and that's the body, in your receptors. Those neurotransmitters, they come from the brain. They're little cells that come from the brain, and they connect with those receptors. And once they get connected to that receptor, it's like unlocking the effect or the endorphins or that medication that's like morphine. It attaches to the same ones that opioids do, so you don't have to go out and get opioids. You get your endorphins, and they will connect to the same receptors that the opioids attach to. And it responds to pain, and as opioids do, and is as powerful as morphine, providing pain relief and euphoria. I'm giving you guys so much information. So there are ways to get your endorphins going. You increase your magnesium, because magnesium will help foods get into your body. Oh my gosh. Okay, one more time. I'm going to do this now. I'll call you in a minute, babe. Um, there are ways to get endorphins released. So you increase your magnesium, decrease sugar intake. Sugar is a problem. It is problematic. It will lift you up real high and make you feel real good, then it'll drop you. But increase your magnesium and leave off as much sugar as you can. Move around. Don't keep your body just, sedentary, just sitting around. Eat protein rich foods and probiotics for good health. That will help your endorphins. And music, easy one. Music will also release your endorphins. So endorphins are also released, and you may like this if you like hot sauce or spicy food, Thai food, or all of that. Acupuncture and spicy foods release endorphins. Now that was free. I will not hold that back from you. So I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint, and I'm sorry, back to our talk today. And remember that this month has been designated, the month of May has been designated as the National Alliance for Mental Illness, the month of May. And this month's theme for 2023 is more than enough. So now you know a story of somebody that actually went through something, and you know a couple of tools. You can do some writing. You can allow yourself to grieve. You assess it first of all. This is what's going on. And when you assess your problem, assess it and say things like, is this going to really destroy me? Because immediately when something happens that hurts you, it hurts. But think about it. Is this going to destroy me? Am I going to lose my life in this? Or is this something that's going to last forever? Or is this something, that if I just take a moment, it's going to get past me, and I don't want to move or act in my emotions. I don't want to get into my emotions and act out of frustration. So assess it in your mind. Stop, take a moment, breathe. You just, while you're taking in that moment to breathe, taking in that oxygen, and oxygen goes to your brain, clears out the fog, and then as you release it, it also slows down the heart rate and it lowers and it normalizes the blood pressure, so that the moment of that rush of the fast breathing and the high blood pressure, it settles that down. And while you're doing those breathing exercises, you're taking those thoughts to your mind. Is this going to destroy me? Is this going to pass over? Do I need to embarrass myself? Do I need to do something that's going to ruin my life forever or someone else's? While you're doing that breathing. Journaling was the second one. And then after you've assessed it, then you want to go ahead and allow yourself to grieve. Cry, because yes, you have been through an ordeal, and it is normal to unload that pain. After you've unloaded your pain, then move on and find a way to manage it. And I just gave you a number of tools. So hold on to this video, or hold on to this live, share it with somebody. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. and we want people to cope and to deal with things in the right way. Okay, I've taken up enough of your time for this one evening. All right, I pray that this day finds you in good health. And as you take these mechanisms and tools in, that you will indeed be blessed. All right, now those of you that have not purchased my book, Breathe, it has all of these coping mechanisms in it. This is a very good seller, and it is a blessing. I want to give you something if you buy the book, and you need to take time out to just breathe, sit down, give yourself a break. And so I have this mask, the sleeping mask. I use it because my room is so light, and sometimes I can't sleep because the light is just too intense. So what I do is take this satin covered, cushiony mask and I put it over my eyes. And this piece right here for the nose keeps your nose from being smashed out, and no light whatsoever is going to get through that. And that's comfortable and that's peaceful. And now I'm almost in another world. Every time I sleep with this on, I find myself into a good sleep where I have gone so deep into a sleep until when I wake up, I have to look around and see where I'm at because it has done its job. Okay, it's removed me from the situation. Okay, so if you purchase this book, if you want to email me, that's my email address at the bottom of the screen. I will get this book to you for $10, and you will get this free satin sleeping mask that says breathe. All right, mental health awareness. All right. So email me and I will respond to you. Now, before you hang up, make sure that you do text me. I'm sorry, that you do subscribe to Reset Forever, both on Facebook. I just need one more person, so I'm at 1,000, I'm sorry, subscribers to my page, Reset Forever on Facebook. And then also subscribe. Please do subscribe to Reset Forever on YouTube. Let me see if I can get that in front of you. Let's see if I can get. Oh, I can't. Not on this page. Okay. Alrighty. All right. Well, if you go to the Facebook page, you will see the QR code. Scan it and subscribe. All right. God bless you and bless you and yours. And I'd love to get that book and that free mask out to you so you can breathe and enjoy good, stable mental health. All right, God bless in Jesus' name.